All right, welcome everyone to the podcast. Thank you so much for having us here to join in on what we're going to share today. And when I say we, I mean myself and my wonderful guest, Bryan Henry, who is a founder of Together We Ascend. He is an ascension guide, a coach, a brilliant podcaster. His podcast is Awaken with Bryan. And I had the opportunity to be a guest on his podcast, and I was absolutely bowled over with the depth of your questions and how massive they were, but so on point. It's one of the most fascinating podcasts I've ever been on. And so all to say, I'm very excited to be able to have him on my podcast today. So Bryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for those kind words, for creating a space for us to share. Hopefully my answers today can be as profound as those questions are.
It's going to be great. I know it's going to be great. So before we dive into a whole bunch of different questions that I have, and I'm excited for the flow of today's topic, um, can you tell us a little bit about Together We Ascend? Kind of what started that for you? Where did it come from?
Mhm. Hmm. Source. I'm a steward, a humbled steward and co-creator with the divine that is. So I yeah, I think in terms of where it comes from, it's about me being open to be that conduit and that channel, if you will, for what wants to be created and inspired through me. Of course, I can probably talk about this at different layers. There's, a more logical explanation that I'm happy to provide, but definitely what I think is really at the heart of that is the oneness, the call into higher states of awareness, expanding into unity consciousness. I know that that's the journey that I feel myself being called on, and intrinsic with that is supporting humanity, supporting our collective beyond humanity, the
Mhm.
planetary collective consciousness and beyond, in remembering oneness. So that's a bit of a snippet of the mission that Together We Ascend is on.
That's beautiful. And I mean, you do a lot of that support in what you share on your podcast as well, which is quite a beautiful thing. And what brought you into like the one-on-one coaching aspect of it? Do you think that is that something that came to you through an experience of your own, or was it something that you were just again like source led into those conversations?
Yeah, always source led, but more practically speaking, there were stepping stones to that. One being a background in personal training and the health industry. So yeah, I think there is where my passion for supporting people in their journey and in their transformation really was birthed and or really blossomed. At first, it was the transformation of the physical body, of course,
Mhm.
but soon after, I felt this calling to support people in a more holistic way and for a more holistic intention. So yeah, I would say that history of being a health coach and a personal trainer kind of naturally evolved into it. Didn't feel like a change of paths. It was more of an evolution that led into the type of one-on-one coaching that I would do today.
Mhm. I get that. I totally get that. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but I used to be a kinesiologist, and so I did a lot
Mm-hmm.
of one-on-one training as well. And that's really when a lot of my stuff morphed too
Mm-hmm.
into like noticing more about people beyond just the physicality and their physical goals. And I think that's a really neat progression into that one-on-one kind of spiritual or ascension coaching is when you kind of move through the 3D body into the deeper depths of what the soul is looking for.
Yeah, and I think for many, myself included, it acts as such a powerful kind of gateway into this higher consciousness ways of thinking. I know for me again, it was starting with the body and seeing myself grow and transform in that way that really was the beginning of feeling inspired to grow beyond that. So yeah, I think, addressing the physical body, it's such a it becomes this stepping stone for so many people, and for the type of work that I was doing as well.
That's beautiful.
Oh,
So that being said, as you started to kind of become aware of your own ascension and, seeing that in other people around you and what kind of awakening is, how would you define it? How do you define awakening or ascension?
yeah. I'm glad you say or, because I would say that those two terms are ultimately synonymous, for me at least.
Mhm,
As for defining it, expanding our awareness of that which is.
mhm,
Yeah, it's really the journey of becoming more conscious. And what I've come to believe is what we're becoming more conscious of is our oneness, our oneness with all that is, our infinite potential, um, our unconditional love. These are ways that I can point to where I feel we are ascending. But to kind of sum it up, I feel like it's becoming aware of this, of aware of unconditional love, infinite potential, and oneness.
mhm. That's beautiful. So, with that being said, where do you think humanity is at on that level? Like, do you think humanity is in like a high percentage of people that are in that state, or do you think it's a low percentage?
Yeah. I love this question because sometimes I feel like I'm living in an entirely different world from other people,
Mm-hmm.
because I have seen and heard some of the doom and gloom stories around humanity and the state that we're in. And I get it. I am somewhat aware of some of what's taking place on our planet or on this current timeline. Um, why I say I feel like at times I'm living in a different world is because I have high hopes, and not only that, but I see good in people. I really feel and believe that people are good, and the vast majority of people that at least I'm experiencing are expressing that. And so I think there's something to be said about the frequency and experience that we're tuning into. If we choose to focus on the good in the world, the love in the world, the compassion in the world, which again I'm seeing a whole lot of, that's the world that we live in. And so I do believe that we're in a great place. Of course, we're going to continue to evolve and expand, and I think that's inevitable.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. And that fits with that idea of like um 3D and 5D splitting now in kind of realities. Like some people talk about new earth, old earth, new realities, but like what I've noticed if we apply that 3D, 5D split principle is that perspective, people's perspectives is really what holds them in one level of consciousness versus another, right?
Hmm.
Which is like how you're saying in your view, life is good, although yes, there are things going on, but you see the hope and you see the potentials in that higher frequency, whereas somebody else may not, but both are happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's one, choosing that reality for yourself, and to go beyond this, it's seeing beyond the appearances, the surfaces, knowing that I hear and there's a statement that really resonates with me when I'm open and receptive, and it's um, heaven on earth is here, right? It's here if we choose to see and believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, again, it really comes down to what are we choosing within our individual expression and experience. Are we choosing
Mhm.
to believe that? Are we choosing to focus on that? Or are we going to give energy to these stories that we're not quite there yet, that we still are living in this broken world? I know that for myself, I'm not choosing to experience that any longer or play in that experience any longer.
Mhm. And that's neat because that leads me to my next question is, have you always had this perspective, or was this a perspective that was discovered or evolved into through really challenging experiences?
Which perspective specifically?
The perspective of hope and goodness and progression forward and like versus doom and gloom. Like, were you born as someone who was naturally
Hmm.
very sunny, or did you have to learn to choose that through your life?
Definitely the latter. And the other thing I'll just add to that is it's an ongoing practice. I not yet in a state where I'm flying high every day, every moment, and
Mhm.
it's all sunshine and rainbows. I still come up against experiences where, yeah, things there's a little bit of doubt creeps in and um, so it is a moment to moment practice. And I would say like having arrived at the sort of frequency and perspective that I'm sharing now and I have faith in, um, definitely it's been a journey of a lot of challenges and a lot of shadows to face and transmute.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what would you say are some of the best tools that you use in your own practice or spiritual practice to help you through those kind of rocky times or when you hit a speed bump on your path? What kind of things do you turn to?
Yeah. And so do you mean like in the face of that, like in the experience of something coming up for me,
Yeah.
how would I address that?
Hmm.
It's a great question. Feel, feel. I am a big proponent of being with and feeling our emotions in the body. I'm really big on somatics and connecting to the body, and so a lot of what we might deem as being a challenging or an uncomfortable experience, if we bring presence, like pure presence to that experience, likely what we'll find is that there's some energy, there's some density, some emotion in the body that is wanting to surface and to be felt and transmuted. Where things get challenging, I think, or even more difficult is when we fight that, when we don't give our space selves the space to feel. In some ways, that's an even more uncomfortable experience, I would say, than actually just being with those energies as they come up. And so I think to put it simply, it would be presence. But then there's also this process that I'm constantly coming back to, and it's the being with and transmuting that energy within the body.
Hmm. That's such a powerful thing is that statement of feel. And I think you're so right. We do, and I will generalize, but I think we do often want to run from some of those feelings because we're afraid of the feeling of it, right? Especially even fear, right? Like fear is an energy that is so ingrained in us to run from it. And with fear narratives that we have rampant around the planet right now, we have to actually make ourselves sit in the energy to discover what is it actually, like what is that
Mhm.
fear actually for us, like what is underneath it. And that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, and I think to that point, it's first understanding that brings a gift. Understanding that there's some expanded awareness or level up in consciousness that wants to take place through that process of feeling these emotions. And so to suppress that is kind of impede that growth or evolution in a sense. So I yeah, I've grown to really just embrace the aspect of the human journey that is emotions. The other thing that comes up for me with regards to that is feeling the depths of something like fear sort of goes hand in hand with feeling the other end of that, feeling these more positive, elevated emotions of joy, bliss, love. So seeing the emotional journey as this all-encompassing thing where we get to experience these emotions, and learning to embrace that for me has been such a profound and valuable part of my journey.
That's amazing. And do you think that's something that took you a long time to understand, that that was kind of the process that was unfolding, or did it just feel really natural? Like, was it a retrospective thing where you're like, oh, now I realize what's been occurring for me and what I've learned? Or was it just like a natural evolution?
Yeah. In some ways, I think I can say it was natural. In other ways, not so much. Again, it's this practice, and it comes with time. It comes with commitment, and choice. So yeah, in many ways that process flowed for me, or in many moments it flowed for me, and other times not so much. And then the other thing would be that I feel like it's this constant leveling up of becoming more sensitive, becoming more equipped to feel our emotions. So I might someday we might be having a conversation 2 years from now, and I'll look back at it and say, that wasn't feeling. That's kind of
Mm.
what this theme has played out in so many different ways in my journey, where down the road you look back and you thought something that you had cultivated or developed or understood, that is taken to a new height. So again, I think that the message here is it's an ongoing journey.
I agree. I like that constant leveling up. I couldn't agree more. It's so
Mhm.
interesting. So, with that being said, so feel being a really big key component to moving through the tough stuff. Um, what would you say then has been beyond the feel? What do you think is one of humanity's biggest things that they're going to need to face, or that they are facing right now in general?
And we are facing. Mm.
Yeah.
So the one that comes up for me, and we can dig into the roots of it, but the one thing that I feel is just really present for a lot of people, the collective, of course, is this paradigm of doing to feel worthy, doing to cultivate a sense of worth. We live in a world right now where I think a lot of people just still have a hard time with just being, right?
Yeah.
It's always needing, perhaps I shouldn't say always, but I do see it in many people, and there's still some of this in me where um there's this discomfort around that. And what I think we really need to ask ourselves is, what's beneath that desire to strive and achieve, because I love those things. I'm a totally ambitious person. I love dreaming big and I love going for it. And that can be a very joyous experience for me. Um, but what I've noticed sometimes comes up for me, and I know that I'm not the only one here, is um, sometimes that doing doesn't always feel good. Sometimes that achieving and going after it comes with a sense of not feeling happy in the process, not feeling well in the body. And when that happens, I have to take that step back and ask myself, what's going on here? Is it really worth it that you're sacrificing your joy and well-being in this present moment for this idea that someday things will be better? And so when I ask myself that question, often what comes up is this well, ultimately this lacking sense of self-worth that is trying to be found in achievements and accolades. And so I think one of the big things that humanity is currently facing is this integration of this doing and being energy where we're coming into this harmony between the two, where doing is not being motivated and motivated by a lack of self-worth or fear. And instead, it's coming from a place of joy and love and expansion. So I think this process of really healing, to kind of just put it like, to sum it up, but this specific paradigm of um, finding self-worth in, or looking to find self-worth in achievements and doing, I think that's definitely one that is in the process of being transformed.
I think you nailed it. That is so true. And it's so interesting because my husband and I had a conversation just yesterday about this. And he was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about how uh, what we're really seeking when we're seeking approval from somebody is truly actually approval from self, like true approval. And I remember years ago, my guides brought that idea to me too. I was trying to move through this really challenging part of my life, and they were like, "Who are you seeking approval from? Who is it you're looking for to tell you it's okay, you're okay?" And I was like, I don't know. And it got to the point where I actually didn't know. Like I didn't know. And then they suggested that if I was willing, and they always know that like if they challenge me to something, I'm going to try it, right? Because I love to be challenged. And they're like, if you're willing, set up your camera, film yourself speaking to the camera, looking in the camera, and then after watch it and answer yourself. And it was this really like revealing, vulnerable experience of speaking to myself and then witnessing myself after. And I realized how true it was that I just need approval from me to know that I'm worthy enough to
Mm.
do A, B, C, or D.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think you're so on point with the fact that humanity is really like wanting to be worthy of something so badly, and they want to produce or make it or be it, but really they're lacking that internal sense of gratification. And like you said, like doing something because of the joy of it
Mm-hmm.
versus the results of what it will give you.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important that, this paradigm it was passed down to us. It's not that we're broken. It's not that there's something wrong with you. It's literally a collective thing that we are doing work on within our individual experience, of course, but it really has been this collective program that we are, well, feeling our way through, and recognizing, like you said, that what we're seeking for in achievements or from others, we can ultimately give to ourselves, because it's the idea that I need to, at least the one that I've seen playing out in myself. Maybe it's not the case for everyone, but it's the idea that I am not yet worthy of being loved. And that was a belief, a program that was passed down to me that I picked up when I was a child. And so there's this drive to become worthy of that. I think another thing that can really help support this process is recognizing that we already are loved. We already are worthy. That's been one that's been challenging for me, I'll say. I'm innately worthy. Um, but we can quite literally tune into that sense of not only being worthy of love, but being unconditionally loved from source, from spirit, wherever we can derive that, or wherever we feel in resonance with deriving that from. And yeah, for me, that becomes the most healing thing.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And where do you think, I mean, just your opinion, but where do you think that's come from? this idea of like not being worthy. Like, yes, it's been like passed down, but do you think it's just been like an energy on the planet? Or do you think it's been generational traumas? Like, I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah. So I think from the highest perspective, there's nothing wrong. That's at least the truth that I hold on to. From the highest perspective, nothing has gone wrong. Even this program, this paradigm that and this feeling of unworthiness, from some expanded perspective, this is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so my answer to the question, where does that come from, is well, from spirit. Spirit conjured that one up. I have some ideas for why that happened, but yeah, I truly believe that it was created from this higher perspective with an intent for a purpose, um, and to kind of just hint at that purpose,
Mm-hmm.
we experience and understand. We understand through contrast. I can only know hot because I know cold. I can only know up because I know down. And I can only know this laptop because I know everything that's not a laptop. Contrast is literally the way that we can understand a concept, an energy, and even a frequency. And so this program of unworthiness, let's call it, um, it inherently is supporting us in not only remembering but deepening our understanding of the other side of that, the other, and that's inherent, innate worthiness, deep,
Mm-hmm.
deep, innate worthiness. So I feel like that's the answer to that question. It came from the creator so that we can expand in our awareness and our understanding of what we truly are.
Mm-hmm. I think that's beautiful, honestly, because I mean, people in different texts and sacred scrolls talk about the great forgetting when people come into 3D reality and souls choose to come into this reality to understand polarity and duality, like you're saying, right? To truly learn understandings that then are cemented in their soul's consciousness. So that's really interesting. I love how you put that. So speaking of spirit, I want to kind of go down a different tangent just a little bit, but um, what are being that I'm a medium and I talk to spirit often, and like it's kind of the world I live in. What, if any, is your most vivid spirit communication or experience or whatever with the divine and it and like whatever it is, whether it's ETs, whether it's just a source energy, and whether it's a ghost or a mediumship reading, like what was, if you're willing to share, one of your most profound experiences that just did it for you? Like it just
Yeah.
was the thing.
Yeah, I'm laughing because as soon as you like started asking the question, I knew exactly what I was
So
meant to
exciting.
share.
I
I
love it.
also I love this question because well, I feel like I'm going to use this one, so thank you for that on
Of
my
course.
podcast. I mean, um, yeah, okay, so I guess I'll tell the story properly here. It's it began with coming across a website. Came across a website. At this point, I had already, awakened, let's call it. Um, but this website was a little bit unique in that the message was so it's written to the reader. So it's saying you, okay? And it's speaking to me, and the message goes, we are here to remind you that from your fifth dimensional self perspective, you made the decision to come to this planet, or to join this planetary collective consciousness of Earth called Gaia. You came to assist Gaia in her ascension process from a 3D to a 5D state of consciousness. And you are reading this now because we had made the agreement that when you were ready for it, you will receive this message as a way of being reminded of your mission here on Earth. As I'm reading this, I'm feeling this full body goosebumps. I'm feeling just like chills, and I'm like eating it all up. And I think I spent the next few days just like devouring that website. I was just reading everything I could get my hands on that website. And these messages were coming from the Arcturians, who I had never heard of. This was again was my first interaction or first time I ever heard of the Arcturians. The Arcturians were here reminding me of my mission here on Earth,
Mm-hmm.
to support Gaia in her ascension process. So about maybe a few days passed, maybe a week, and I decided to bring this to my partner. Okay, I she's also very intuitive, so I went to her and I shared. We're sitting across the table, and I like like this is gonna sound crazy, I know, but I'm feeling something here, and I'm reading this message from this extraterrestrial race, and that was the term that was used on the website. I'm reading this message on this website, and I'm just feeling something here. There's actually one more thing I should mention about the website. There's a story on the website. Another one of the things that I read on the website was a story, and it starts, I looked up at the sky and, oh, sorry, I woke up in the middle of the night and I looked up and I saw this radiant being looking down at me. And I asked this being, "Who are you?" And the being looked down at me and said, "I am you." I
Mm.
couldn't understand how I could be this being. They were glorious. They were magnificent. They're glowing these bright golden colors, and I, I wasn't magnificent. So I asked the being again, "Who are you?" And the being looks down and says, "I am you." So there's this story that goes on, and it tells the story of one's higher self speaking to this person. Um, so now come back to my interaction with my partner. Um, I hadn't told her that story. All I told her at this point was, I came across this website. It's from this extraterrestrial race called the Arcturians, and they're letting me know about my mission here. And I feel like this might be true. She's listening. She's like listening intently. And there was a certain point in the conversation where she's staring at me with this like just straight face, no smile, no frown, just this straight face. And she looks in my eyes and she says, "You are ready." And I was just like, whoa, what is going on?
Yeah.
You are ready. Um, she had channeled a being before, so it wasn't completely absurd. But the fact that I'm telling her this story and that's the response, "You're ready."
Mm-hmm.
My immediate response to that was, "Who are you?"
Mm.
And I hadn't told her this story. Her response was, "I am you."
No way. I have chills. I totally have chills.
Yeah. I understood where she was coming from. I get it. We are one. But I need to know. I I need to know. Like, please, who are you? I am you. So I
Mm-hmm.
take a second. I realized I wasn't gonna get any answer beyond that. Um, I collect myself. I had chills in the moment, and I asked, "Okay, I get it. Why are you here? Like, what do you have to tell me?" Um, and she responds with a question. Her question is, "Why are you here?" I respond, "To spread love and light, to help others rise, to ascend together." And then she asked, "What is your contract?"
Mm.
I was like, that word to this day, the fact that that word was used, like, still boggles my mind. What is your contract? Um, maybe, okay. So she had asked, and that's when I had responded what I just shared. So if she already asked, "What is your contract?" And that's when I
Mm-hmm.
responded to ascend together. Anyway, so she then puts her hands out. I know to kind of grab them. I just know that's kind of what I was being invited into.
Yeah.
Um, I hold her hands. We're looking into each other's eyes, and she says to me, "You are pure consciousness. You're pure energy. Things are going to get difficult at times, but you are capable and you can do this." I'm just like, yes, I can do this.
Yeah.
And the last thing that she said was, "Prepare for your upgrade."
Mm.
We're still holding hands at this point. And I see my partner. She looks down at her hands. She kind of makes a face like this, like she looks a little confused. And then she just kind of pulls her hands back. And I'm just like staring at her, waiting for her to say something. I'm just like, she's just looking at me. And then she's just like, she sees me staring at her and she's just like, "What?" I'm like, "Do you not remember?" And she's like, "Remember what?" She has no recollection of
Oh my
this
God.
conversation at all. It happened. She came back in, her human came back in. And I went on to tell her what happened.
That's fascinating. That's an
Yeah.
amazing story. Wow. And I love the vivid detail that you recall it because it's always so profound. Like when someone has like a profound story, the vividness is there. It's so interesting. Um, how long did it take for you to have that really sink in? Like, were you kind of in like shock for a little bit at first, or was it just this instantaneous like merging, clicking, knowing, and there it was. Like it just, what
Yeah.
was it?
I would say the latter. The funny thing is I named my brand Together We Ascend years prior to this.
Oh,
Prior
no
to
way.
Yeah, years prior to any concept of 5D ascension. Ascend to me had a completely different meaning at that point. Um, and so I've been on this path. I've been on the journey. And even before I knew I was on the journey, I was on the journey.
Hmm.
So this idea that I had a purpose here and that I was to help humanity evolve, and this idea that we were becoming more loving and compassionate to one another, that had already been my purpose. I had already deemed that was my purpose here. So when I had the absolute honor and privilege to receive this form of confirmation, it was like just everything that I had kind of felt was just like confirmed in the deepest possible way. And the way that brought me to life, like I remember, especially after, like, right, the to this day, that's still my mission. I've never forgot that forever changed me. But
Hmm.
I think, like, as soon as that happened, like it took up it leveled up the importance of this work in my mind. Like, to know that this was something I chose to come here for. And I tell this story not as this is my mission. This is me reminding us of our mission. Because so many people that I've had this conversation with, I've we came here for this purpose of supporting this planetary collective consciousness and evolving and ascending to a state of oneness and harmony and well-being. And I think it's such a beautiful journey that we're on, that we get to remember.
Hmm. Absolutely. I agree. And it's interesting too, because I know in conversations with people, more and more people talk about having something that triggers their memory of that contract, so to speak, right? That like purposeful choosing of being here at this time. Some their experience is more profound than others, like a huge significant experience like yours, or it's being channeled to you. But Others talk about having these understandings in like a flash of awareness or a dream state, and it's interesting to see how many people are kind of coming online to recognizing their purpose in being here right now.
Yeah, I see
Kind
it
of
as
fascinating.
this. Sorry, were you?
Yeah, no, I just that I find it fascinating how, whether people are choosing to share it now more or it's just happening more. There's like in the last several years, there's this theme now of people like coming into conscious awareness of truly being here for a purpose on a much bigger scale.
Yeah, I've at least in my reality, it's accelerated, right? Like
Mm.
it seems like it's becoming the the norm even. Like it's just so prevalent, this expansion of consciousness and to be thinking in these more conscious ways. Um, I really just see it as like just turning each other on. We're activating each other, right? One of us comes online and then someone else comes online, and we're playing this role of activating each other, or activating not activating the other person, but something's being activated within them in receiving and connecting with others. So that just like I can see that I'm visualizing the earth right now with like all these light little speckles of light. And when it starts with one, that process is going to be slow, right? It's only going to be very pinpointed in that area where one or two lights around them is going to turn on, and then one or two lights around those two lights are going to turn on. But if you look at the picture long enough, the rate at which those lights are turning on because of the amount of people that have been turned on, um,
Mm.
that's just going to accelerate. And I think that's kind of what we're experiencing, this moment in time where it just feels like absolutely wild how quickly things are changing, how quickly more and more people are awakening.
Mhm. I agree. I totally agree. So, with that being said, Bryan, how can people work with you? What are some of the things that you offer?
Yeah. At this point, I don't feel like I want to put a specific invitation out for a coaching program or a course or anything like that. What I feel more aligned with sharing and inviting those that might be interested in connecting with me, um, is to check out my YouTube, check out my podcast, Awaken with Bryan on both of those. Um, Awaken with Bryan on any podcast platform or on YouTube as well. And yeah, I just invite anyone to who feels called to reach out. Let's have a authentic connection and conversation and see where that goes. A lot of the people that I end up coaching and working with, it starts like that. It starts very organically. So yeah, rather than putting out an invitation to come work with me, if you'd like to reach out and connect, let's do that and see where that takes us, that energy flows.
That's beautiful. But yeah, and I honestly, I do recommend people check out your podcast. Just the questions you ask, again, I just have to say, it are just so beautiful to listen to, and so I definitely recommend that. So, uh, as we bring this to a close, do you have anything you would love to leave the listeners and the viewers with? Any thoughts? Any last things of inspiration or things to ponder?
Yeah. Um, mm, I want to say that you're a powerful creator. You're powerful beyond measure. And we're waking up to this. We're awakening to just how powerful we are. The other side to that is that we're supported, we're guided in this process. We don't have to do it alone. We're not alone, and if we open ourselves up to it, open our hearts up to the way that we are supported by source, by those around us, and we let more love in, the things that will then blossom into. There's no telling.
Mhm. That's beautiful. I love that. Well, Bryan, thank you so much for taking some time to share your heart and your soul on the show. I appreciate you so much, and I hope we can do this again.
Yeah, and thank you, Jeanette, for creating the space. I'll echo that you are also a fantastic podcast host, and I just really appreciate the way that you are serving humanity. I'll also just add that the feedback that I received in response to the conversation that you joined me for on my show was huge. Like people absolutely loved you. I had people emailing me to thank me for introducing you to them.
That's so
So
cool.
yeah, again, I just want to express my gratitude for you and who you are.
Oh, I'm honored. I'm so honored. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us today. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week, and I'll see you next week.